AITA. Am I the a-hole for letting my kids eat meat despite my vegetarian wife? My wife has suddenly gone vegetarian, after watching a documentary about how animals are exploited when they are sent to be slaughtered. Neither of us have been vegetarian before and we rarely ate vegetarian meals. Our family situation is that I work full-time, while she stays home to cook/clean/pick up kids from school, etc. This has always been fine and she is a great housewife. I never pressured her to be a housewife, this is what she wanted from the start. However, as she is now vegetarian, she refuses to cook any dishes with meat in it for me or our two kids, 10 and 12. She has been a decent cook, however, she doesn't know how to cook many vegetarian meals just yet. And naturally, I am craving meat. She insists that I do not eat meat ever again, and insists it upon our kids as well. We argued over this, but I gave in and said I would try, but no promises. My kids basically refuse to, but since they aren't exactly old enough to cook for themselves, they have to abide by whatever my wife packs them for lunch and dinner. Just to be clear, she explicitly asked me to not eat meat ever again, and I said I would try. Here is the issue. Every Monday night, my wife goes to dance classes and it is my responsibility to feed and entertain the kids. After a month of not eating meat, my kids were bugging me to get them some non-veg dishes. So, I made them promise not to tell my wife and I will take them to a restaurant of their choice. We went out and my kids ate fish and chips. I left the receipt in the car, and my wife found it a week later. My wife was very upset at me, and said I should not have gone behind her back, and that I should not be contradicting her to the kids. I explained that I crave meat, and the kids do as well, and it is not fair to impose her choices onto us. Anyway, my wife won't budge from her position that nobody in our family is allowed to eat meat, and I won't budge from the fact that I should be allowed to eat meat when she is not around, and so should the kids. I am not asking her to make non-veg dishes, I am arguing that I, and the kids, should be able to choose to eat what I want. Anyway, AITA. Am I the a-hole for lying to my wife, contradicting her parenting and also encouraging my children to hide secrets from my wife? Wow, NTA. Not the a-hole. Your wife is though, for forcing her diet and beliefs onto others. My dad is vegan, but he doesn't force it onto anyone. Edit. People are getting mad at me, so I want to say this. Anyway, AITA for lying to my wife, contradicting her parenting and also encouraging my children to hide secrets from my wife. Yes, he should not be lying to her, but there is also this that everyone seems to be ignoring. My wife was very upset at me, and said I should not have gone behind her back, and that I should not be contradicting her to the kids. I explained that I crave meat, and the kids do as well, and it is not fair to impose her choices onto us. If she is going to go ballistic when her kids, and husband, have a choice that is different from her own, she is very wrong for that. You guys seem to think he should tell her every time they eat meat, at which she would then become the meat police and stop that from happening. So in the end, there is really no common ground here. NTA. Not the a-hole. Dietary choices that aren't a medical requirement should be made by the person themselves, including children. You went behind her back after she forced you and the kids to abide by her new lifestyle. She's the a-hole for trying to force them to watch a documentary after they didn't willingly choose to not eat meat. NTA. My dad is vegetarian and my mom a meat eater, but my dad was always okay with it. He even helped prepare meat for his 5 kids even though he's born and raised vegetarian. You shouldn't force that onto someone like that, and you're definitely doing the right thing letting them eat what they want. NTA. The kids want meat. They're old enough to know their own palate. If they're going to have a moral crisis about it, they're gonna have to do that on their own. You can't force a moral crisis on someone else. That's inception. And we all know how dangerous inception is. AITA. I'm a vegetarian, slow transition to veganism, and what your wife is doing is just as bad as my mother insisting I eat meat. Mind you, I'm 22, but still. It's disrespectful all around. What your wife is doing is inevitably trying to control the entire family, without allowing any compromise. These kids weren't born into this lifestyle, and they're not only going to resent it, but also you. Letting the kids eat meat once a week is perfectly fine. Forcing them to adhere to your wife's sudden ideals/standards is wrong. I would like to ask, have your kids seen any of these documentaries about the meat industry? Or is your wife just forcing a new lifestyle upon them with absolutely zero meaning behind it? Although I understand where she's coming from, and commend her personal choice to not contribute to the meat industry, if she's not allowing her own children to make that choice, especially an educated choice, she's already transgressed the message there. My wife has tried to get our daughters to watch one of the documentaries, but our kids apparently got frightened and started crying and refused to watch more. They love animals, but not enough to not eat them, and I don't think they had seen dead animals before. I was working at the time, so I heard about this when my kids told me. Naturally, I asked my wife why she did this and she said she was trying to educate them. I asked her if she thought it was inappropriate and this started a whole argument. She hasn't shown them any more videos after I convinced her that they were too young for this. ESH. Everybody sucks here. Wife can't make unilateral decisions for the family, but you shouldn't lie to your wife. You really shouldn't make your kids lie to mom. Also, if you want to serve meat, cook those dishes yourself. He literally said his wife doesn't want to let them eat meat at all, even if he cooks the dishes. She insists that I do not eat meat ever again and insists it upon our kids as well. This is absolute bullshit and should not stand. NTA. Looks like you have a hard road ahead of you. Huge NTA. I don't understand the people that says ESH. Yes, you lied, and then? It is your wife that is forcing your family to follow her into her vegetarian trip. She is the a-hole by far. NTA. Your answer to your wife is simple. I agreed to try it as an experiment and see if I could tolerate a purely vegetarian diet. The results are in, I cannot tolerate it. I crave meat and so do the kids. I am happy you have found a diet that you enjoy, but it is not fair for you to demand that the kids and myself adopt your personal diet. I choose to eat meat, and that is my personal choice. We can talk to the kids about the pros and cons of eating meat, but it's their choice as well. Apologize for going behind her back, because that part was wrong. But stand up for your meat-eating status and that of the kids. Also, if she says you shouldn't contradict her, then remind her that parenting should be done as a team. She's not acting as a team player, she's acting as a dictator and demanding obedience from her subjects. You do not and would not have told the kids that we will never eat meat ever again. So right now, she also shouldn't contradict you in saying that some meat is okay sometimes. The obvious solution is to both say that people have different opinions on the subject. Mommy really doesn't like meat and feels that meat is bad because the animals that died to make the meat suffered. Daddy feels that meat is okay because it's something we eat. In nature, big animals eat little animals, so us eating meat is natural. Then tell the kids it's okay to have a different opinion than someone. They should form their own opinions but try to understand the issue completely rather than just going with we like meat. ESH. Everybody sucks here. Your wife is definitely an a-hole for trying to impose her lifestyle choices on you and the kids without regard for your actual wants and needs. However, you really shouldn't have gone behind your back, nor encouraged your kids to lie to her mom. You should have confronted her and stood your ground, making her realize that whether she likes it or not, you're a grown-ass man who can decide what he eats, and that you have as much of an input in your kid's diet as she does. ESH. Mostly her, because imposing her views on the rest of the family this abruptly is not fair at all, and I say that as a vegetarian. Her not wanting to cook meat now I kind of get, but she has no right to impose on what you and the kids eat the rest of the time. And I'd also say that it's unreasonable for her to impose on what food is kept in the house. But you shouldn't have encouraged the kids to lie to her, that's really out of order. You needed to have this discussion with her yourself weeks ago, making clear that her expectations were wholly unreasonable. Instead of taking the deceptive, bad example to the kids' route because it's easier. Maybe some thought needs to go into what meals can be both vegetarian and not. If you're buying pizza you can get some with meat toppings, some without. Fish and chips you can have fish, she can have a pasty or pie or something. But I do think if she's responsible for the shopping she needs to be accommodating the rest of you. It's not her shop, it's the household shop, same way that it isn't your wage, it's the household's income. You should probably be prepared for if the kids do decide they want to go vegetarian sooner or later. A lot of people switch at 13, 14, 15, and if they see those kinds of documentaries it might persuade them. At that point you might have to forego regular meaty meals at home, though it would still of course be reasonable for you to eat meat otherwise, or have meat accompanying your meal or whatever.